G'day guys, my name is Lord Tomo here again with another Sonic the Hedgehog toy item collector review. As you know, I am Lord Tomo and we have the good old blue stay, good old Sonic the Hedgehog. Mess around with my phone. Well, it would appear that he's changed the wallpaper to modern Sonic and classic Sonic. How awesome is that? Anyway, that's besides the point. Let's put him aside and get to the actual review itself. Now, I actually try to hold out to do this review for quite a while simply because I don't have every single piece as of yet. I try to see if I could source it, find it. I'll show you what it is, and it's pretty much self-explanatory within itself. This is a Sonic and Knuckles 4-pack review. Now there have been 5, and each 5 come with 4 different exclusive, Sonic the Hedgehog / Knuckles character within the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, of course. Now I only have 3 out of the 5 of this set. Now I try to source out the rest. I don't want to necessarily collect them individually. I know there were definitely on eBay, as far as I'm aware, individual pieces, but I wanted to collect it in its full packaging, which, as you can imagine, it's quite tedious / hard to actually do. So I figured what I'll do is I'll simply review this as one at a time. So over time, gradually, hopefully, fingers crossed, I will have all 5. I do have 3, so that will be definitely kind of like, ooh, which ones does he have, sort of, aspect of it. So let's get straight into it. This was released and manufactured, well, this was released roughly in 1994 when Sonic & Knuckles, the expansion pack, more or less came out for the Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive. The actual manufacturer is, of course, Tomy. No doubt. Tomy, as you probably may or may not know, are pretty much, at the time anyway, back then, as to what they are now, I'm not too sure, but back then they were more or less kind of a manufacturer of Sonic goods, if not different various IPs. I'm not too sure if it was with Zelda, Mario and all that sort of stuff. I do know they heavily endorsed and created stuff of the Sonic universe, which nonetheless got to give to them. Some of the products that they've made, which I've reviewed obviously in the past, are quite remarkable in terms of their design and overall, creativity, and to the extent, the beauty of that item. This is kind of weird within its own right. I will show you individual, of course, but we'll get into it straight. We'll go through one piece at a time. All we need to know for now, it was released in 1994 and by Tomy. Now the packaging itself pays homage to the actual packaging and box art of the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic and Knuckles game cartridge. You have obviously good old design of Sonic the Hedgehog there. You have the title Sonic and Knuckles. You have obviously it's 4-pack. It comes with 4. Now, what I especially liked in the whole Sonic the Hedgehog universe in terms of packaging and overall design was obviously the Sonic and Knuckles packaging itself. You can't exactly see it, but in the original one you had the Sonic the Hedgehog outlined in dark or blackness or dark, and you had the other one which was actually Knuckles the Echidna. I love that and I still have it, and it's one of those things that I guess for the most part really captured the essence of the rivalry, if not the unison between Sonic and Knuckles. I know I'm looking into it too much, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's what I liked about it, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to collect this in its packaging originally, except being loose. This actually has a bit of backstory. At the very top, you just have obviously who made it, Tomy. At the very bottom, you just have a bunch of disclaimers. Don't. What does it actually say? Don't. Not design. It's a Sonic Collectibles. Yeah. So that's that. At the very, you just have the reference number. I'm guessing this is the batch 7115. I'm guessing. On the side, you have obviously show you Sonic and Knuckles 4-pack, and the other side Sonic and Knuckles 4-pack. At the back is by far probably the most interesting thing. Obviously, you have the reference number. You have a little logo. You have Sonic and Knuckles, but you actually have every single collectible item that could actually be collected in the 5-piece set, being that you collect all 5. Mind you, I have 3, so as to which one I have, guys, you shall never know until I review it, of course. At the very bottom, of course, you just have a bunch of, text. Now you can collect all of these superb Sonic figurines, and just, you have your various Knuckles, various Badniks, and whatnot. So that is that for this specifically overall packaging. Do I enjoy it? I thoroughly enjoy the actual packaging of this. It very hominous to the very retroness of the actual game itself. I thought this is, from the Tommies to date, I'm pretty sure this is probably the most accurate packaging in comparison to the game to date, unless I'm mistaken. Anyway, let's open this little puppy up and let's check it out, shall we? Now, there's absolutely no like disclaimers or piece of paper, which is quite alright. I'm not complaining, because you know you don't really need kind of a disclaimer for that sort of stuff, if you know what I mean. Now, I just for the most part put this in here just to show you. Basically, when you first take it out, it comes out of this. It comes with a plastic piece. It's extremely loose. Now, this is just basically the packaging. Now we'll go through each individual item, talk a little briefly about them, and my thoughts, obviously, in my opinion. First and foremost, you have Dr. Ivan Robotnik, or some like to refer to him as Dr. Eggman. I'm kind of on the borderline. It depends on how they portray him, is what more or less I refer him to. Like in this portrayal, I like to refer him as Dr. Robotnik because he looks like Dr. Robotnik. In the modern portrayal, with modern Sonic, I like to see him more of Dr. Eggman because he looks like Dr. Eggman. They also played homage to that in Sonic Generations, the game, if you guys ever played that, which is a whole different ball story. Now, for the most part, it encapsulates the actual character pretty well, for the most part. You know, his eyes, his arms position, his overall pose is quite obscure. I've never seen an enemy, let alone Dr. Robotnik, hold his, you know, hands in that sense, but I guess, you know, you make do with what you have and mass produce. At the back, it just follows through the actual detailing of this, and you have obviously the boots. Now, obviously, you have a little marking of the word Sega. I don't know if you can see that. Now, it is moderately, I guess, for the most part, decent, but you can see it's obviously not the most well detailed figurines in the whole series. Mind you, it is pretty much consistent in terms of how uninspiring the paint job is. The molds themselves are decent. It's just the actual. I'll see if I can get a better there. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, so it's pretty uninspiring, you know, the gloves and everything, but I guess you make do with what you have, right? So this is obviously Dr. Robotnik, pretty decent. I wish they could have done more, but it's alright. I guess for the most part it's decent. The next one is interesting, I say. Here it is. I'll put my hands behind it. It is good old Knuckles the Echidna. Yes, your thoughts are probably as good as mine. He looks pretty, you know, he smashed his head against the rocks once too many times, which probably explains a whole lot with him. Now, they did catch the overall essence, his little, you know, moon-arc chest, his eyes, if you can really call them eyes, his mouth, his dreadlocks, which is pretty right. I like the finer detail. Like I said, the molds themselves are perfect. I like the mold. There's his little tails and there is his gloves. But the paint job is much to be desired. I can probably assume that this was pretty much done kind of as like, you know, like a hand painted, which I appreciate that. But I would have, if they're going to mass produce this, I would have just preferred to be a paint job / mold thing. But the mold themselves is great. It's just a paint job, so he looks pretty, you know, special. Get that. That's alright. Here's the second one or third one, really. This is, I think, crab meat. Yeah, crab meat. I am crab meat. This is one of the badniks in obviously the games. Crab meat. He's just a crab that, you know, wants to kill meat, I guess. Once again, the mold is absolutely superb. I just would have preferred them to, once again, you know, add more little details to the actual paint job. It's pretty much consistent with all three that I have. It's just not well painted, to say the least. But that's that, you know, his little mouth. It's decent, I suppose. The other one, the last of this set, is Spike. And this is probably one of the most specials of the specials, as you can probably tell his eyes. Now, I guess that does, to an extent, encapsulates his eyes in the actual game, but he looks very, very special in this sense. And I've never really thought of him to be that light shade of a pink, and you got like a green base. I always thought it was a darker kind of purple. So you can probably tell by his little, you know, if I cover it, by his little, you know, wheels, that it's much to be desired, to be honest. But it's there, I suppose. It's okay. Mold's perfect, just paint job is pretty horrendous. Now, you might be thinking, why have I wasted, you know, my time or anything collecting, obviously, you know, this thing, really. Well, there is a story behind all this, as you can probably imagine, and the story goes more or less. From what I do know, this was obviously released in 1994, and it was released exclusively and around Europe during that time. Now, what makes this actually interesting, if not, I guess, defining, just let me pack this away quickly so I can explain it better, is that these sets are extremely rare, both within the packets as well as individuals. Come on. So yeah, it's extremely rare within the actual package as well as individuals. Now you might be thinking, okay, for a pretty chunky job of paint jobs but decent mold, why would they be rare? Simply because throughout the whole Sonic Generation games, even the modern stuff, anything that encapsulates badniks, I keep saying the word encapsulate, anything that encaptures the essence of any badniks back in the 90s, I guess increased the actual rarity of this actual item itself. I've seen loose, by loose I mean no packaging, just the characters. Loose, anything that goes up to, like, I don't know, £200, $300. I've seen it sold for that much, and I'm kind of like, flabbergasted that would go up to that extent. Don't get me wrong, these are individuals. It's kind of displays more or less on the overall aspect that it's homeless to the 90s. Like, oh, it's Sonic the 90s. That's what it is. You don't appreciate it so much for the paint job. You appreciate it for when it was made, for what period it was made for which game it was made for, and for the simple fact that they've created actual molds and characters for the badniks of the game. Now, a lot of the stuff you could say, okay, Jazzware has made a lot of the badniks, which I do have, which I'll probably review. I just want to focus on retro stuff before I get to the modern stuff. But with Jazzwares, for instance, they created like I guess 3.5 inches characters with certain badniks, like from Sonic 06 and all that sort of stuff. That's alright, but a lot of the nostalgic effect, or a lot of the badniks that gets reoccurred or kind of recycled in the newer games and whatnot, are these retro ones. So for the most part, it would make sense why these would be rare. Paint jobs, not. I don't like it. Molds, great. Just I would have wished they preferred that. Now, what do I think of this set? I actually thoroughly enjoy it for the most part. I would have preferred, obviously, as you've probably heard multiple times, the paint jobs to be good. Now, how much did I get this piece for? I got this piece for about $120. This piece alone. This is a couple of years ago, but mind you, the third piece, the second one of the pieces, I got for about, I think, $130, and another piece about $130 as well. So as you can imagine, each piece in its mint condition, of course, obviously if you know where to find it and whatnot, it varies in prices. Loose, obviously they tend to sell for a lot. Packaging, it depends on the sellers. I'm a pretty aggressive bidder when it comes to stuff like this. If it comes in packaging and you guys are bidding on something, no doubt I'm probably going to be bidding on it as well. But yeah, in terms of rarity, look, I'm definitely going to have to bump this up to maybe 7 stars out of 10, thereabouts. It really comes down to the collector and whatnot. Now, these do appear every now and then, like Amazon, eBay, various auction websites. In its full entirety like this, it becomes extremely rare. Obviously, if there was common as I'd like to think, I would have had all 5 and I would have reviewed them all in one hit and made probably the longest review of my life, which this review is probably going to hit. But yeah, 7 stars out of 10, depends on the collectors really. Definitely a nice piece to have in your collection, just for A, if you're a 90s person, or B, if you would just really like the badniks back in the past. I don't think this is necessarily something to be, eye-throwing or something that really just goes, oh my god, that's beautiful paint job. It's not, I'll be honest. But anyway, this is the first of hopefully the 5. Once hopefully I get 5, I'll get 3 of the reviews. I do appreciate once again that you guys enjoyed, or if not, like my reviews. If you have any questions, inquiries, by all means, hit me up. I'm more than happy to help you out. Or you can just leave a comment providing any more formal details. This was obviously manufactured in 1994, released by Tommy, rarity roughly 7 stars out of 10, price ranging between $100 and anything up. That's pretty much it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching my reviews, and take on and speed on.